Elias was known as a quiet man. In a world full of noise, opinions, and constant talking, Elias rarely spoke unless it was necessary. People often misunderstood him. Some thought he was shy. Others believed he lacked confidence. A few assumed he had nothing important to say, but none of them truly knew him. Elias lived in a busy city where silence felt out of place. People talked loudly on phones, argued in cafes, and shared their thoughts without thinking. Words filled every space, leaving little room for reflection. At work, Elias sat at the corner desk. During meetings, others rushed to speak first. They interrupted each other, raised their voices, and competed to sound smart. Elias listened. He noticed things others missed: the hesitation in a voice, the tension behind confident words, the truth hidden between sentences. He understood people better by observing them than by speaking to them. But silence came at a cost. One day, during a team meeting, Elias had a solution to a serious problem. He waited for the right moment to speak, but the meeting ended before he could say a word. Later, the project failed. Someone said, "If you had ideas, why didn't you speak?" Elias smiled politely, but inside, something hurt. That night, as he walked home, doubt followed him like a shadow. Is my silence making me invisible? Does my voice even matter? Elias had always believed silence was strength. But now he wasn't sure. A few days later, Elias decided to visit his grandmother, Miriam, who lived in a quiet village far from the city. She was a woman of few words, but deep wisdom. As a child, Elias loved sitting beside her, listening to her stories and long pauses. They sat together on her porch as the sun slowly dipped below the hills. "You look troubled," Miriam said. Elias nodded. "People think silence means weakness." Miriam smiled gently. "Silence only feels weak to those who fear it." Elias looked at her. "But how do I know when silence is strength, and when it is fear?" Miriam was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Let me tell you a story." "When I was young," she began, "I lived in a house full of loud voices. Everyone wanted to be heard. No one wanted to listen. I spoke often, but no one remembered my words." She looked at Elias. "One day, I chose silence. I listened more. I spoke less. And when I finally spoke again, people listened because my words came from clarity, not noise." Elias felt something shift inside him. "Silence," Miriam continued, "is not the absence of voice. It is where your true voice is born." That night, Elias slept peacefully. When he returned to the city, he carried silence differently. He no longer saw it as hiding. He saw it as preparation. At work, Elias listened carefully, as always. But now, when the moment felt right, he spoke calmly, clearly, without urgency. People noticed. One afternoon, a co-worker named Daniel approached him. "You don't talk much," Daniel said. "But when you do, it makes sense." Elias smiled. Slowly, others began seeking his opinion. They trusted his words because he never wasted them. But the real test came one evening. Elias was walking home when he saw a crowd gathered near a cafe. Two men were arguing loudly. Anger filled the air. People shouted opinions, taking sides without understanding the full story. The argument grew heated. Everyone was speaking. No one was listening. Elias stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout. He waited. When there was a brief pause, he spoke calmly. "Let's slow down," he said. Anger makes us loud, but it also makes us blind. The crowd fell silent. The two men stopped shouting. They looked at Elias, surprised. Elias continued, "Before we decide who is right, let's understand what happened." The tension softened. One man spoke quietly. Then the other listened. Within minutes, the conflict faded as Elias walked away. He realized something important. Silence gives words power. Weeks passed. Elias began teaching a small evening class for young professionals about communication, listening, and emotional awareness. Many students expected lessons on speaking confidently. Instead, Elias taught them how to be quiet. At first, silence will feel uncomfortable, he said. That's because you're meeting yourself without distractions. One student asked, "But how do we stand out in a loud world?" Elias answered softly, "By not becoming part of the noise." The class grew popular. People felt understood, seen, and heard, not because Elias spoke a lot, but because he listened deeply. One night, as Elias walked home, he realized he no longer feared being quiet. Silence had taught him patience. Silence had taught him empathy. Silence had taught him truth. He remembered the doubt he once carried and smiled. Silence hadn't changed him. It had revealed him years later. Elias stood on a stage, invited to speak at a conference. The hall was full. The audience waited. Elias paused before speaking. The room grew quiet in that silence. Everyone leaned in. Then he spoke. "Silence is not empty," he said. "It is full of answers we are too busy to hear." When Elias finished, the applause was calm but deep, like respect, not noise. As he left the stage, Elias understood the greatest lesson of all. You don't find your voice by speaking louder. You find it by listening deeper, and sometimes the story that changes your life begins in silence.